Thank you, all of you, for taking the time to be here, and I think it's well worth your time. And I think what you're going to hear today should inspire all of you to take action, stop just reflecting and commenting and, critiquing, but to move aggressively to try to save some money. If you don't necessarily want to save the planet, here's an opportunity to save a lot of money. It's beyond me, and I mean this with sincerity, it is beyond me that there are so many buildings out there that are still using yesterday's technology when they could be using today and tomorrow's technology and saving literally hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions and millions of dollars over the next few years. And in this economy, it goes without saying that is the number one priority, I imagine, of each and every one of you, in addition to your enlightened leadership and stewardship as it relates to the issue of climate change, the issue and concerns around emissions and the like. We in San Francisco decided a number of years ago to move away from identifying the problem and the challenge to beginning to solve it. We put together the most aggressive green building standards of any city in the United States of America. It was led by our friends at WebCorp, Steve Phillips and others, and they came out with a series of recommendations with BOMA and others that basically codified San Francisco's and its elected officials' vision in writing in a way that built a real framework and partnership. And I think this is important. A lot of cities, there's been a lot of initiation of green building standards that came from their city halls that ultimately did not get adopted because they were met with strenuous opposition by those that were supposed to carry them out. The difference in San Francisco is we went to you first. We built a partnership and a framework. You came up with the recommendations, and we adopted the recommendations, which were yours. And as a consequence, we can stand here today proudly with more LEED certified buildings than any other city in the United States of America. And I want to repeat that because this is a small 47.5 square mile city that has 88 LEED certified buildings. New York City, just 76. And down in LA, again, a city substantially larger, just 56. Now, these numbers change on a weekly basis, but these are numbers that go back at least 30 or so days ago, so they're relatively new numbers. We were able to do that together. Now, that was important for all new construction, any substantial remodels, but candidly, it was a drop in the bucket. Well, much as we were proud and appreciative of that good work a couple of years ago, it really didn't mean much. And that's a terrible thing to admit as mayor. We said this is some of the most significant environmental legislation in the United States of America. And, in some ways we can hold to that, but that addressed about 1% of the city's buildings, meaning every year we basically add about 1% to the existing building stock. So it would have taken, half a century to amount to anything really meaningful. What we need to do is to get into all of the existing buildings and to get into that legacy stock and to get significant and serious about deep energy retrofits if we're going to substantially reduce our carbon output and substantially reduce our energy use and costs. And that's why we put together a green building task force. We called it 2.0. Everyone else seems to add a 2.0 to their task forces nowadays. And this was led by Steve Ring and 18 others. There were 19 in this task force. They came together, similar group, and they just came out a few months ago, I guess it was a few weeks ago, with a report and recommendation to require energy audits for every existing building in the city and county of San Francisco, commercial building that is. And then require, as is required when you purchase a vehicle or lease a vehicle, that rather than having the gas mileage there on the sticker, that we would have the energy efficiency on the sticker so that every tenant or lessee now will know whether or not they're going to be paying more in terms of those passed along costs of occupancy for their energy use. And they can go shopping, not just for a nice space and a view and maybe a parking slot, but shopping for the most efficient and effective and most environmentally safe and sound environment to which they can do business. And the good news there is that, again, that was industry-led. Not every single one of you necessarily were participants in that, but I think most of you appreciated the leadership of some of your colleagues that were willing to do something that they felt was appropriate and was rational and was real. The goal is this, to reduce by 50% the energy use of all our existing buildings in San Francisco by 2030. In some ways, I was rather disappointed in that, because I'm reminded of what Michelangelo said the biggest risk is not that we aim too high and miss it, is that we aim too low and reach it. I would hate to think that's the best we can do over the next 20 years. I think we can do a lot better. That being said, it's an important goal, and it's certainly the most aggressive goal of any city in the United States of America. So once again, we believe we'll raise that bar and ultimately raise the expectation that other mayors that are constantly on the forefront of trying to out-green one another will establish similar or more aggressive policies that will later allow us to adjust ours. Again, this is not just about the environment. This is about saving money. You're going to hear from Tony how much millions and millions of dollars he's going to save. You obviously have folks that are in this room that are already doing this that just, again, don't get why they took them so long, that are saving huge amounts of money, notably our friends at the Transamerica building that are saving, I think, what, $500,000 a year by putting some energy efficiency and water efficiency projects and weatherization upgrades in their existing building. So I don't, for the life of me, again, if I owned a building or if I were a tenant of a building, why I wouldn't be demanding that this be done. I don't think we should have to mandate this, but we want to get things started, so we are mandating it, and then we hopefully will get out of the way. 45% of our CO2 in San Francisco is emitted from our buildings. So this is a big, you're not going to get serious about climate change unless you get serious about buildings and changing the way we operate, construct, and manage our buildings. It's not just emissions from cars. And so this is a big, big part of the narrative that I think we're going to experience, and it's going to happen one way or another at a local level with patchwork of regulation, or at a state level with a patchwork of regulation, or at a federal level if they can ever get their act together with an organized framework of legislation. So I've always believed it's better to be ahead of the curve than behind, and to drive this. And I'll close by just making a few comments about that. We now have more LEED certified architects and engineers than any city in America. Why does that matter? It means you can go to any city around the world now and you're a leader. You're certified, you're ready to go. It means more business by definition. When Shanghai starts requiring these same building standards, you're ready to participate in their 62 buildings they're building this week or next month. And you don't have to spend the 6 months getting accreditation and worrying about capacity to surge and partner with others that are ready to go. So it's right to be here, and it's wise to be ahead of the curve. Final point. San Francisco has the most aggressive local climate action plan of any city in the United States. Our goal is to go 20% below 1990 levels in terms of greenhouse gas emissions, below 1990 levels by 2012. Basically twice as far as the Kyoto protocols. And I don't even have anything to point in Copenhagen, so I'll keep benchmarking against yesterday's climate conference. The good news is we've already reduced our greenhouse gas emissions just shy of 6%. And we did that in September of 2008. We were the first big city to actually submit all our greenhouse gas emissions to a third party. So that's not just some mayor making up numbers to look good. That was done through an independent registry. That was 2008. We're going to exceed that goal. And we've done it by not being punitive and by not hurting our economy. And with all due respect, it has been easy. I look back and go, there was no hiccups, Barbara, from the PUC, one of our leaders. There were no major hurdles. And it goes back to my frame. I don't think we're doing enough. I don't think we're imagining enough. Some ways, I can't stand LEED. I mean that. Big deal, LEED. I mean, that's benchmarking. It's absolutely essential. Thank you for the leadership. LEADIS, or ER. That's dyslexia. But we should be reimagining. You should be producing energy. You should be like the owners of the W want to put a wind turbine on top of their roof. You should be generating energy at your site. You can do that. I mean, so don't just think, well, one day it'd be great, we can be LEED, and then maybe we'll get LEED Silver, and boy, in 2018 we can become LEED Gold like the Transamerica building. And then just dream of dreaming and put a nice park on top of your roof and get a LEED Platinum, and then say, see, we're like the Academy of Science. That's yesterday. It's time to completely reimagine. And so I hope in today's conversation and framework you start reimagining and not thinking within the prescribed box that we're offering you today. Ironic to come to a conference and argue for something or a discussion, but try to argue beyond it, because it's in your best interest and it's our collective best interest. It's in my daughter's best interest, my 13-week-old daughter. And I am very, very proud of the leadership in this room. I'm very thankful, and I'm very enthusiastic because Tony gets it. I had the pleasure of being with President Clinton for a meeting, and he said, we're going to have the meeting at the Empire State Building. I said, great, I've never been. This is good. Went up to the demonstration floor where they had assembled all of the work that they were about to do. And it really got me thinking that we needed to do even more here in San Francisco. And in many ways, that inspired our second task force, was just that meeting and that introduction to what they're doing. But here we have, and this is why I thought today was so special, here you have two iconic anchors, the Empire State Building and the Transamerica Building. East Coast, West Coast, two very progressive international cities where people are always looking for leadership. And here we are with enlightened leadership on both coasts, telling us not just to do something, but showing us how it can get done. So thank you for the example, and thank you for the opportunity to share these thoughts. Thank you all.